A'udhu billahi minash shaitani regime. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We seek refuge with Allah, God Most High, from Satan the rebel, from Satan the outcast, from Satan the devil.
The rebel?
We begin things in the name of God Most Gracious, Most Merciful. I greet you in an ancient language of peace and of paradise, the language of our mothers and forefathers, with the greeting of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam, sir.
You're watching Islamic Action TV, brought to you by Gorilla Minded Productions.
Get your hand in my pocket.
Just this week. Well, it's every week actually, because as you know, in the mainstream, in the news, in the mainstream media, the corporate media, the drip of Islam, extremism, radicalization, the intensity continues, or in fact it intensifies, but that would be a tautology, so I'll just say it continues. But there is a recent WhatsApp message that I was privy to from one of the groups that I have been put in, or I'm in, and it's about radicalization, because you know it's an ongoing theme, yeah, but it's got a little twist to it now. It's got a little flavor. It kind of ties into some of the things that we've mentioned before in some of our discussions about the whole revert, convert, or this whole social engineering, and going back to this Westminster attack, and even issues before that about them saying, and it was a convert, and it was a revert, and it was a black Muslim. So they were, they're like Ansel and Gretel. They're leaving a little bit of bread, so to speak, on the forecourt, and leaving a little bit of clue. So they're setting you up for something. So I just want you to read this quick WhatsApp message and then chop it up and see what we can extract from this. So the email reads, I was invited to a convert stroke revert Muslim study research meeting 18 months ago, and I got double booked, so I left it. Recently I got a random call from the acquaintance about something else, but he mentioned by chance the info of this meeting. He then stated that the study was pushing a school of thought that black converts stroke reverts are passive extremists, because most black converts stroke reverts become Salafis. There were more reports written by many so-called Muslim heritage groups to support this claim. I just had a meeting with the chairman of the Jason Roberts Foundation. He attended an event of the senior UK black community charities, has been told by the senior officials that Afro-Caribbean converts stroke reverts are more likely to be extremists, etc. And this is the BS certain people are pushing. This is being perpetrated by many forces. I just thought I should share this with everyone. And it reads at Public Enemy number 1. I won't mention a brother who authored or penned it or sent it, whatever, because I don't know if I don't want to mention his name because I don't think that's fair. But maybe we could talk to him in public about it if he wants to. But the point of the matter is, it wasn't who sent it. It was what was mentioned in the correspondence. And we've been saying this for a time, that there's from different corners of the society, there is this drip in the mainstream about the radicalization, but now it's falling at the black man's door. It almost reminds me of a record that Buju Banton made years ago when he said everything what happened to foreign, Ali get the blame. Mm-hmm. It kind of plays into that, it's the Caribbean brothers or it's the black brothers, it kind of ties into that thing. And what's so disgusting and disturbing, and I hope that it's a misunderstanding. I hope the research was flawed in some way. I hope that the information was made by accident. But I hope that heritage Muslim communities, or amongst them, not all heritage Muslims, but those in certain positions of influence and power, those who sit on the board of institutions, hope those who sit on the boards of these organizations are often registered charities. I hope out of fear of losing their charitable status and eating out of the trough of the mainstream, that they don't sell other Muslims out, because as Muslims we know that there is there's no colour in Islam. I don't know, but in all seriousness, we can't we have to be careful of how we allow ourselves to be divided and conquered. So I'm not even going to fall into that thing about it's the Salafis and this, because I know that in reality most people in Britain don't know what that really means. And I don't think they really care. I think if they hear Muslim or Quran or hijab or burqa or anything of that nature, they're not really making any distinction. They might parrot those words because they've heard it on Newsnight, mentioned on Newsnight or something of that nature, or a Newsnight item, or CNN or Fox. But they don't really know what those terms mean, and the geopolitical fallout or the theological ramifications or anything of that nature. So I think that Muslims even falling into that divide and conquer is a foolishness. Yeah, there are some sectarian issues that need to be addressed, and we'll hope to address them in other videos. But the point I'm making is that I'm not surprised, because as I said, I've even been mentioning this. I see this coming. I see this social engineering. I see this going on, and now you're gonna have black brothers who, for example, ain't Muslim, but they might just be done in a beard or rocking a what's his name? Is it Rose? Can I call him? Can I actually call him Ricky Ross? Is that loud? Is it Rick Ross, or is it Ricky Rose?
Yeah.
But anyway, even if they're just guys,
the real Rick Ross won't be upset. Real Rick Ross won't be upset.
He won't be upset
because obviously someone took his name in it.
All right, we'll allow him for that. We'll allow him for that. But even so, even black men that ain't Muslim but might just be done in a bit, they might find themselves falling under the watchful eye of the forces or the powers that be, because they may be, seen as in some way alluding to radicalism, or Muslims that can be radicalized. So they don't have to even be Muslim now; they just have to be black. But another point is look at the double standard of what's going on. There's been a man that has killed a politician, a mainstream politician, a white guy, not a Muslim. He shouted out EDL as his salute. So he's giving you. So he's caused violence, trying to cause fear. He's for a political cause, but he's not known. Was it not soft terrorism? What's he known as? Was he even radical or even extreme?
Not a humble gardener.
He was known as a humble.
He was a lonely, estranged guy, with a few psychological problems. Yeah,
nothing ideological.
Lived with his mom.
He was on the spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on the spectrum. Yeah, right, the fringes.
And what about this other youngster?
That left a nail bomb on a train on the Jubilee line.
This year, 2017.
Yeah, seeking to cause carnage, death, and mayhem. And apparently,
how is he described?
He's suffering from Asperger's, a prank, and a lonely nerd, basically.
The odd fellow.
A
social misfit.
A thumb. Yeah, he's social misfit.
But not
a terrorist. No, the terrorist not being used for him because he's white.
So
yeah.
I hear double standards going on.
I smell bacon, homie.
Yeah, I smell bacon, homie. Get your hand out of my goddamn pocket. But yeah, I believe that there are some questions. You guys, there's some questions that have been formulated. And as I always say, I'm open for questions, comments, or criticisms when I'm at your service.
All praise to Allah, brother Bilal Ali Hugh. Once again, thought-provoking, controversial, and inspiring. And I mean, I've got 1,001 questions that I'd like to ask, to be honest with you. But for now, I should keep it short, purely for keeping it short wise. I think you hit the nail on the head. I've always believed there's been a conspiracy involved by the so-called heritage Muslims to stigmatize and categorize and sectarianize a particular group of people who become the punching bag, who become the fall guy, the whipping boys, for the fact that they now want to suck up to white supremacy. So what's happened is, obviously, when we saw the so-called when Khalid, is it Masood, his name is, this brother with psychological problems, disturbed young man, seemingly commit suicide openly by getting shot. We saw plethora of Muslims saying, "Not in my name. He doesn't represent me. He's not a real Muslim. He's not a real Muslim," because real Muslims wouldn't do that. We saw these silent parades outside Parliament, vigils holding candles and the vigils. Majority of the people, 99% all Asian, right? Arabs and Asian women out for the first time. Sunni and Shia Asians and out there. Not any black people represented, because we all knew that the spook at the door was the black Muslim. The beating boy was a black Muslim.
It's whitewashing.
Definitely whitewashing. Blackwashing too.
Brownwashing.
So there was whitewashing going on. But the point was, they needed a scapegoat. And once again now, they want to throw the suspicion. They're basically saying, look, we're brown skinned, we're closer to you white folks than them black Negroes are. Before 9/11. I gotta say it. Somebody has to say it. It has to be said.
You didn't want to say it.
I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to, but I had to say it. So basically, before 9/11, we were the niggers. After 9/11, they were the new niggers. But now they want to go back to putting all the crime on us again, and using coons in white turbans, dressed as Zoroastrians, whether they're in the Iranian dress or in the pale Arab dress, putting these people before us to try and nullify us and to pasteurize us and keep us away from understanding that disgusting, despicable word, revert or convert has now been used to mark us. It's now a target. It's like in the Public Enemy logo. It's now a target. If you put that name on yourself, you're in the crosshair, brother. So on that, how would you expand on that and say now that this is why we cannot be using these labels at all, and we cannot have these so-called preachers who are so-called black brothers, whether they're Sunni or Shia, trying to represent us, but at the same time sucking up to these people and not tackling them as to why they're now subtly trying to move the security force MI5 and MI6 towards so-called black revert brothers and sisters as well.
I think that what we have to be careful of, because it's very dangerous, and we may fall into the hands of the oppressor. We may fall into the social engineering and the indoctrination and miseducation of the oppressor by becoming victims of divide and conquer. So we have to steady ourselves and be aware that it's not all of the heritage Muslims that fall under this guise, but too many. Let me bring it back home and keep it real. Too many, as I said, are eating from the trough of the capitalist pig, and that they are afraid of losing material benefits. Not defending Islam, but for the material benefits, they will sell Muslims out. Not just black Muslims, they'll sell any Muslims out. But it just so happens that it's the black brothers and sisters that will end up in the crosshair, and as you said, the target for the establishment, the law enforcement, to lean on and weigh down on. I think that you mentioned something about white turbans and pale Aborigines. I don't want to go into that right now. I think that that's a whole discussion in itself. I think that's something that can be explored, can be analysed, and needs to be discussed. But I would prefer to keep my comments around the Adibalajo syndrome. I think that you mentioned that.
Speak on that, brother.
And it's the psychology of one that is, let's say, vulnerable because of the mythology of black inferiority that exists in this society, and to some degrees because of public media and media globally, that there is sometimes a vulnerability for malevolent forces to manipulate people of this nature, but to generalize and say because somebody hasn't gone through a decoonification, a black brother or sister,
that's right. Speak on that.
It automatically means that they are going to be involved in criminality, because there's different. Sometimes a brother can be, if I just use that word, a coon, but it can be a law-abiding coon, but he can just be a tool against the upliftment and the progress of his own people, the advancement of his own people, and in general, in advancement to humanity, if you can put it that way, because that person's just like a deficit, and they're not adding anything. They're only taking
dead weight.
They like flotsam and jetsam, something that should be thrown off the ship for the ship to get back buoyancy and pick up speed. But or they should be reformed, inshallah ta'ala. That's what will be ideal. But most importantly, we want to put out there that there is a plan of thought, that yes, sometimes Caribbean brothers and sisters, black brothers and sisters can be vulnerable and can be taken in by people with long beards and nice sounding names and lack of scholarship, but not, as I said, not criminal. But I think what's the nasty inference of that is almost like saying that black people have this predisposition. It almost sounds as like pre-war Nazi type propaganda or KKK eugenics type propaganda. You know, that kind of, they have this kind of genetic, or I don't know if it's cultural or something, one of the single homes or where they come from, but they got this disposition to criminality. Whether it's biological, genealogical or cultural, but there's some proclivity towards, law breaking. And I say that we reject that wholeheartedly, even those who are susceptible to the coonification process. We hope that this has been some food for thought. But before we chop it up, I believe there's one more question from the floor. I wouldn't want to miss out.
Thank you very much, brother, for your analysis of a very potent topic. But just to go back to this point about decoonification, where do you think this mentality comes from? On the part of blacks, that they need to feel that this is where they belong. They need to suck up to their masters in this way. What's the origin of that particular phenomenon? And how do we address it?
Okay, so we can touch on Joy the Gru. We can talk about post-traumatic slave syndrome. And she's got a whole dissertation, a whole thesis about this transgenerational trauma. So if we go back to the transatlantic slave trade, if we go back to colonialism, there is the institutions of learning, the institutions of spiritual guidance, which would have been Christianity, the institutions of education, the political and the social order was black inferiority. The capitalism, the Western capitalist model, Barclays Bank, these banks, the royal family, these institutions gained their wealth off of the free labor of Africans that were brought into the New World to work for free.
But the Arab slave trade, brother, though.
Yeah,
and the Ottomans and the Persian slave trade, the black Africans.
Hey, listen, we're gonna get into that, but I'll cut my wisdom and go off into the they're gonna get theirs too. They're gonna get theirs too. They're gonna get their time. But that's Africans from another part of the world. That's the East Africans argument. We could put that together. But we're talking about this diaspora from the Caribbean via UK and from North America, Canada, XYZ. So that process has taken place. There's a generational learning, or they call it the social learning theory. So these kind of certain types of mentality, certain types of miseducation, and certain types of ideas was passed on generation to generation. If that is not challenged, and a person, for example, is a Christian, and they take their shahada, they will then operate, I think Dr. Khalid Muhammad used to say, on automatic, systematic remote control. So that means they've now left Christianity, they've left a white Jesus, but deep down, the spook behind the door still sits there on a kind of representation of black inferiority. So then they'll find some sheikh, some alim, some sayyid, somebody that is light-skinned, or they'll buy into that sort of white supremacist or Aryanization interpretation of Islam. So they're still vulnerable to become lackeys, from an Anglo-Saxon lackey to a Aryanized
Blackie.
Eastern lackey. So
Eastern Blackie, yeah.
The miseducation has to be addressed. It has to be addressed, and it should have been addressed like 10 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. Like, it needs to happen now, and that's why we're bringing out conversations like this, to put it in the public domain, but also to document this for future generations. This is our recording the history and the current affairs now, but we're recording it for future generations to come, so they have a body of work or a body of analysis at least. We haven't provided the citations, but we're giving them some clues, some tools to do the work in their time. We're speaking to the children now. We're speaking to the future though. The small ones that's running around and screaming.
50 years from now, man's watching this. Yeah,
exactly. Because Malcolm X had to do this type of thing where he put information out there that we could benefit from. 30 years, the man's passed and gone, but 30 years later, you're able to work out who was the Judus factor.
SubhanAllah.
But I think on that note,
who was the Judus factor?
The Judus factor. We can get into that next time, inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits. But we're going, nice chopping up with you all. Hope to see you next time for another edition of Gorilla Minded TV, Islamic Action. Oh yeah, remember to subscribe, whatever you do, hit the buttons on either side, like, follow us, Twitter, Facebook.
Comment.
Make a comment, make a criticism. It's fine to disagree. Just don't be disagreeable about it. But till next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa ta'ala wa barakatuh.